guys, it's Amber. Welcome to my channel. Welcome if you're new. Welcome if you're returning. I post home fragrance and book content. And today I have my June wrap up. So the books that I was able to get through for the month of June. And then I always, when I read, I pair a fragrance with what I'm reading. What feels either just like feels like what I want to melt, or if I feels like it goes with the story, I feel like it goes with the story, that sort of thing. I have been doing it where I talk about it right after the book, but I'm gonna switch it up and do the book talk first, and then I'll talk about the home fragrance that I used while I was reading the books. That way, if you're just interested in the book content, then you can, stop after that. Or if you're only interested in the home fragrance, then you can fast forward to that part. So I figured it would probably be a better way. That way, everyone gets to watch what they want to watch. Or if you like both, then you'll watch both, like I do. Okay, so I ended up getting through 9 books in June. 2 were short stories and 1 was a graphic novel. I am still participating in the summer book bingo, so a lot of these were for the book bingo. I'll put up how far I've come so far in it so you can kind of get a peek of what I've accomplished so far. As far as my June TBR goes, I read 2 out of the 4 that were on my TBR. So we'll talk about that as we go along, except to say the Beyond the Filigree Wall, I never even got to One Idea Neft. Okay, so let's jump into it. The first one I read for the month of June was the graphic novel, and it is the first volume of Lore Olympus by Rachel Smythe. And I have already read through some of this on the internet, on Webtoons. You can see it, read it there for free too. But I wanted an actual hard copy book of it, and I decided it had been a while since I'd read any of the graphic novel, so I decided to pick up volume 1 because I wasn't sure where it started and when, I knew where it started because it was the beginning, but where it ended off type of thing. So this, if you didn't know, is a graphic novel about Hades and Persephone, and I'm always a sucker for retellings of Hades and Persephone, and this is a modern day retelling. And let me just show you the beautiful pictures. So it's blues and pinks. So yeah, it's really pretty. I'm not normally a graphic novel reader, but I have really enjoyed this series. Glad to jump back into it, and it worked for one of my book bingo prompts. So there isn't a ton of stuff that happens in the first volume. You're just kind of getting introduced really to Hades and Persephone and all the other characters, from all of that, all the lore. And yeah, I would have to say that the ending definitely makes you want to pick up the next volume in the series. There are trigger warnings, so make sure you check those out before you pick this up, because there are something that happens that is traumatic. Let me see what else I said. I have it open right here so I can make sure that I say everything. Oh yeah, so I enjoyed this version of Hades and Persephone. It definitely makes me want to continue to read them. So I may pick up the rest of the book versions of this, or I may just go back to reading on Webtoons. I don't know, but it is a fun retelling for sure. Okay, then after that, I finished a book called The Season. I have returned that to the library, so here it is right here for you. And this is by Sarah MacLean. This is a lighthearted Regency romance type novel with some mystery and thriller aspects, kind of mystery and danger. It's about a girl named Alex, and she it's her first season out with a ton. And she's not your typical I want to get married type of girl. She's not ready to be married. Her and her friends, all three of them, really don't want to come out for the season, but they do because it's expected of them. Their parents want them to, type of thing. And then they end up getting embroiled in some kind of danger, not them themselves, but they kind of get embroiled because of a mystery that's happening. And she's able to, ends up with feelings for the male main character, which of course now I can't remember what his name is. What is his name? Gavin, that's right. Gavin, Earl of Blackmore. So there's some mystery in regards to his father's death. He doesn't believe it's an accident, even though it was claimed to be an accident. So there's a bunch of stuff that's happening with that. And this, of course, takes place during the Regency era. So it's stuff in regards to France. And, they were at war at that time with France. And so there's some like traitory stuff happening and all that. So it was a fun, light read. About a 3 stars for me. Oh, I don't think I said the star rating. This was 3 stars. I enjoyed it. It was a good beginning to the series. And then the season is 3 stars for me too. Okay, then after that, the next one I read was a continuation of the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. And this is The Ballad of Never After. It is by Stephanie Garber. And if you watched my last couple videos, my last haul, or my mid-year freak out book tag, you are already spoiled, but this series is like my new favorite series. So I read this one in like 2 days, maybe. And then I immediately had to pick up the next one, the final book. But back to this book. So this is a continuation, like I said, is the second book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart, which is kind of a spin-off of the Caraval series. And one of the main characters in that, he wasn't a main character, but he was in it quite a bit. Jax, the Prince of Hearts. He is one of the main characters in this, along with Evangeline Fox. And this is I don't want to spoil too much because you need to read the first book first, but it has to do with her going to this other part of the world. She gets asked to go by the Empress of the Caraval series. She's the Empress that asks her to go, and she goes to the Magnificent North is what it's called. I can't remember the actual country name, but she goes as like a liaison for to my mind is completely blanking right now, you guys. I'm sorry. To have good relations between the countries. So this is a continuation of that. Like I said, it's hard to say things without spoiling things if you haven't read the first book. So there is a curse on the Magnificent North, which makes it so stories change, or you're not able to get the complete truth of the stories. Well, there was a family at one point in time, years and years ago, who were kind of magical. They were a powerful, magical family in different ways, and they ended up kind of creating a monster or whatever. And because of that, they were all killed. And there was a curse put on the land, and it was the story curse, which means things changed constantly. You never knew what was true. You never, in regards to stories. So it's about Evangeline and Jax, and trying to open, they're called, the magic system in there has to do with arches. So, you know, like magical arches that would take you from like one place to another type of thing. And Evangeline is supposed to be like fated to open what's called the Valerie Arch. And but there's people trying to prevent her from doing that. Plus, she doesn't know if she wants to do it because no one can really say what's behind the arch. So it's a wonderful series. It's so good. I love fantasy, first of all, but I love like whimsical feeling fantasy. And this whole series gives that vibe. It has that whimsical quality to it. The characters are wonderful. I adored Evangeline, and Jax is like my new book boyfriend. I love Jax. And so I just adored the series so much. A ton of things happen in it, like I said, that I can't really talk about because I do not want to spoil anything. But the Ballad of Never After, I can say this, that at the end of this book, I wanted to throw it across the room because of some things that happen at the end. But I can tell you it did absolutely, I mean in a good way, but like a torturous way. I wanted to throw it across the room. I absolutely had to pick up the next book after. So 5 stars absolutely for me for the Ballad of Never After. And then A Curse for True Love, also 5 stars for me. It was a little different than the first 2 books because you got different points of view, that you only got one point of view in the first 2 books. This one gave other points of view, which progressed the story along. But it didn't bother me. I feel like, I know this one was kind of a disappointment for some people. It was still 5 stars for me. But I see why there were some complaints. For some people, I do feel like it should have been at least 100 pages more, maybe, to kind of flesh out what felt kind of rushed towards the end of the story. But saying that, it was still absolutely 5 stars. I loved it. I loved how it ended. And I had to pick up the UK covers the second I finished that. I was like, I have to get the books. And if you, I did do that video. That was my haul video. If you saw it, look at how much prettier the UK covers are. So UK, and then this is the US cover. To me, no contest. So I love them. I love them. I had to get them. So yes, absolutely love them. 5 stars, the whole series. I will be rereading. That's why they're on my TBR bookcase right now, because I am going to be rereading them soon. So, okay, so that was that. Then after that, if you watched my reading vlog, I read The Revenant Games, and this is by Margie Fuston. And this is about a 3-star read for me. This is about a girl who is human, and she lives in this land that has, on one side are witches living on in one area, And then on the other side are vampires living in another area. And they have kind of a truce with each other. And then the humans live in the middle of both sides. And then there is like once a year, something called the Revenant Games, which kind of makes it so the vampires and the witches are able to get around the truce that they have with each other. So humans have the ability to participate in these games that if they bring the highest captive, either vampire or witches, to the other factions, then they're able to either get someone resurrected if they bring the biggest vampire to the witches. They can have someone resurrected, or if they bring the biggest witch to the vampires, then they will be able to obtain immortality for themselves or for someone else. So it starts with Bly, who's the main character, and she ends up having to enter the Revenant Games after her sister tragically is killed while they were foraging in the forest by a mushroom that ended up being spelled by a witch. And so yeah, it starts from there. And then so I enjoyed it. It was a 3-star. I understand Bly's motivation in regards to her sister. So she wants to bring her sister back to life. And her best friend, Emerson, he ends up getting cursed. And so she is able to convince him to join the game as well to hopefully get immortality. So they're playing both sides. So they're trying to capture a witch and a vampire. And then they end up meeting this vampire who decides that he doesn't want to be a vampire anymore. And so he says he'll sacrifice himself to the witches for Bly. So it stems from there. In my reading vlog, I pretty much lay out the whole book for you. It was super spoilery, so if you want to watch that, then you'll find out, what ends up happening. But I enjoyed it. 3 stars. There is another book coming out, so especially with the way they left it at the end, I was like, oh yeah, they're gonna have another one. So yeah, it was good. I wish the characters were a little fleshed out a tiny bit more. I didn't feel super connected to them, which is why I only kind of got a 3-star for me. But eventually I would get to the second book when it comes out. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. Okay, then after that, I read Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. This one is a true enemies to lovers type of love fantasy, romantasy story. I wouldn't say it's truly romantasy though. There's romance in it, but it's not 100% romantasy. This was a wild ride. This is about Rune, who is a witch, but no one knows she's a witch except for 2 of her friends. And she acts like this dingy socialite during the day and parties and whatnot. She doesn't care about anything but attracting men and going to parties and dances, balls, that sort of thing. And then at night, she rescues witches. In this world, it's like 2 years after a revolution that happened. There were queens that were witches that were ruling the land. And then they were overthrown. All the witches were overthrown by some people that hate witches. And the story takes place 2 years after that happens. So Rune, not the other book, not Bly. Rune is the Crimson Moth. So she has been helping witches all this time to escape from being hunted and killed. So that's where the story starts. Then the other main character is Gideon, and he is one of the head witch hunters, and he hates witches. And throughout the story, you see the motivations for Rune and for Gideon. I felt so bad for both of them, and I saw why they felt the way they felt. I felt that was really well fleshed out. The trauma that was explained as to why they felt the way that they did. So it made the motivations understandable. Then they do end up getting feelings for each other at the same time as they're trying to play each other, because they don't trust each other. Gideon feels like she might be the Crimson Moth, and then she feels like, well, if I like seduce him, if I get him to marry me or whatever, fall for me, court me, then I'll be able to get this information that I need to get to rescue this one witch that was locked into prison before she was able to rescue her. So that's where it is, and that's where it goes. And yeah, it's really good. Like I said, true enemies to lovers type of book. Absolutely need to read the second one. 4 stars, maybe 4.5. Or 4.25, probably. 4 to 4.25 in regards to star rating for me. I did really enjoy it. I will 100% pick up the second book. I think this is only a duology. I'm not absolutely positive though, but the second book comes out in February. But yeah, this is Heartless Hunter. In everywhere else but the US, this is called The Crimson Moth. But in the US, it's called Heartless Hunter, and the whole series is called The Crimson Moth. So I do recommend this one, especially with that ending. I'm like, oh, I got to read the next one. Absolutely, for sure. Okay, then we have, this was a short story by Edgar Allan Poe, The Fall of the House of Usher. This I did for Book Bingo. This is one of the stories that I hadn't ever read by Poe, and I enjoyed it. It was macabre and atmospheric. The story starts with the narrator who gets asked to go to visit an old friend of his who is from, whose last name is Usher and lives in a house. It was the Usher house. So it was a prominent family. He lives with him and his sister live in this big, like, gothic rundown mansion. It's implied kind of that the house actually is sentient a little bit in it, and it's surrounded by this lake and everything, so it's like mushrooms and creepy and the whole 9 yards. So he goes to visit his old friend. His old friend is a hypochondriac, and his sister is sick too, and she ends up dying. And that's all I'll say, because I don't want to spoil anything. But yes, very macabre and creepy and atmospheric type of story. One of those that you would come to expect by Edgar Allan Poe, for sure. I enjoyed it. 3 stars for me. My favorite still by him is probably the Telltale Heart. I haven't read every single story by Poe, but that's the one that has like stuck with me, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably, if I'm talking about a favorite, and I'm not big into creepy, like scary type of stories, but that one is definitely, if you're looking for something creepy, is a good one. But The Fall of the House of Usher was good too. I enjoyed it. So that was a 3-star. Then we have, the next one is another short story. This is by, I don't even remember what his name is. Fyodor Dostoevsky. I'm sorry, I don't speak Russian, so it's hard for me to say his last name. So it is a short story about the narrator who's referred to as the dreamer. And he is a very like shy, reclusive type of person. Doesn't really have friends because he's so socially awkward and shy. And it's called White Nights because it takes place during the summer in Russia, in Russia. St. Petersburg, I think, is the specific city. And, it doesn't really get dark during that time of year that far north. And so it's called White Nights. So it's about the dreamer, and he is there walking around the city in the middle of the night, and a lot of people have left to go on vacation for the summer, so it's pretty barren. And he comes across this girl that he sees crying, and at first he kind of passes her by, and then he stops, and he's going to go back and see if she's okay, even though it's like nerve-wracking for him. And she ends up crossing the street and almost gets accosted by another guy. Well, he goes and confronts the guy and saves her from this guy. So they end up becoming friends because of it. And this is probably, I think it's like a week's time is the whole story takes place. It's a short story, if I didn't say that already. And he ends up developing feelings for this girl, but she is in love with someone else and kind of waiting for someone else. So that's where the whole gist of the story. It was okay. Not my favorite, about 2 stars for me. And I don't know if things were lost in translation, maybe because it was originally written in Russian, but it was just okay for me. And it was depressing, and I'm not big on books that are just going to depress me. I felt so bad for the narrator. But we'll leave it at that. It's a classic for sure. So if that sounds good to you, I would say pick it up. Okay, and then my final book of June. Oh, I didn't talk about, well, I'll talk about it at the end. My final book that I did finish in June is Fable by Adrienne Young. There's the glare. Okay. And I do love this cover so much. So this was one for my TBR. This one and The Revenant Games. Yeah. And then the one that I DNF'd that was on my TBR was The Thieves Gambit. And that, before I start to talk about this, I know I just said I do it at the end, and that wasn't anything, there wasn't anything wrong with it. I only got a chapter or 2 into it, and I just wasn't feeling it. So I may someday get back to it, but I had a huge, book hangover after reading the Once Upon a Time trilogy. So if something wasn't hitting me right away with my next books, I was like, no, I don't feel like this, moving on type of thing, which can happen when I fall in love with a book or a series. So anyway, so that one, Thieves Gambit, I DNF'd. Okay, so moving on. Fable by Adrienne Young. This is a story about a girl named Fable, and she is put on an island by her father, and it's an island for thieves. It's where you put the criminals. It's called Javal, and she is put on the island at about 14 years of age after her dad's boat, her ship, it wasn't just a boat, sinks, and her mother drowns in the ship in the crash. And so he takes her to this island and abandons her at 14 years of age and tells her that if she's able to make it off the island, then he will give her her inheritance. And so this is 4 years later, she's been trying for these 4 years to get off the island, to make enough money to get off the island. Now, she is what's called a dredger in regards to ship lingo, pirate traders lingo. And so she is able to dive under the water and get treasure from under the water, whether it is, you know, just from other shipwrecks, or she can sense like jewels to excavate out of the rock in the water, that sort of thing. So she is able to finally earn enough money to get off the island. Lots of things happened in regards to that, but that's pretty much, I don't want to spoil stuff. So she's able to get off the island and gets passage on a ship called the Marigold, which is a ship that she ends up finding out some things about. And the captain of the ship, his name is West, and there's 4 other characters too. So it's a smaller crew, and they're all young. She's noticed they're around her age, maybe a little older. And so there's a lot of like mystery in regards to what's going on with them. But it is so good. It's such a good story, adventure, perfect for summer because it takes place on the sea. And the whole point of her getting off the island is to find her father, whose name is Saint, finding him to get her inheritance. So she ends up earning passage, and after some things is able to get to this other city where her father is to get her inheritance. Well, things don't work out the way she thought they were going to in regards to all that, but it's so good, perfect summer read. And I loved Fable. I loved the found family aspect of this. All the characters that were a part of the ship were great. 4 stars. I will pick up the second book. And then there is, I know, a prequel called Saint. The second book is called Namesake. And then there's a prequel called Saint. And then I think there's another book that takes place in the same world, but it isn't like directly attached to the Fable series, to Fable, as far as I know anyway. I could be wrong. But 4 stars for sure for me. So that's it in regards to the 9 books that I did read for the month of June. If you're not interested in seeing what home fragrance I used with the books, then bye. Thank you for watching. But if you want to see what scents I can't talk today. The scents I were using. My brain is so scattered. I swear. It's like every time I go to record a video. Then stick around. Please stick around. Okay. So the first one, I'm going back with the books. The first scent that I used with L'Or Olympus that I felt was a good fit is Evening Sky. And this one just gave me the vibes that you get from the underworld, because, you know, down there it was pretty much nighttime all the time, but not in a scary way, in a beautiful way. And so this felt like the perfect option for that. It has vanilla in it. It has, I think, white lily or something like that. It has, I should have gotten the notes, but that's what I get. I get like a vanilla, like a floral, but it's a soft floral, slightly powdery, but soft. And there's like a musky quality to this too. So beautiful, worked perfectly for L'Or Olympus while I was reading that one. Okay, then we have, after that, for the season, I melted Berry Bright. This is straight up like blue raspberry candy. I felt worked good for the story. That was light. It was lighthearted, with a bit of mystery to it. So this has, you know, because blue raspberry is kind of tart. It has a little tang to it. So I felt that was a good fit. Then the Ballad of Never After, I had to go with this one, Johnny Appleseed. So Jax, the Prince of Hearts in the story, he's always eating apples. And so I was like, I have to choose this. I have to choose it. So Johnny Appleseed absolutely gets my pick as an apple girl, as an apple lover. This is like straight up fresh Macintosh apples, and it's so amazing. So how could I not pick Johnny Appleseed for that book? Then following that, A Curse of True Love is Cake Me to Paradise. So this is a beautiful gourmand scent. It's like orange and rum and cake is pretty much the notes. It might be mandarin or tangerine. I can't remember for sure, but it's an orangey citrus with a little like warmth from the rum and then a cakey note. And this to me felt like the perfect fit for the final book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, A Curse for True Love, Cake Me to Paradise. Okay, then we have for the Revenant Games, I used Eucalyptus Wreath. So this is the only one, so this is the only one that is not available right now. You can't get this one. All the other ones are available. My website is down in the description for you. But this one is, hopefully it'll come back in the fall, we'll see. But this felt like the perfect choice for this book. That's why I chose it, because it's outdoorsy. The story takes place like in the winter, so there's like a cooling quality to this, because this is like eucalyptus and juniper, and I feel like there's some sort of evergreen note in it too. So it felt like the absolute perfect choice for the Revenant Games. Okay, then we have for Heartless Hunter, I did Sea Salt Mist. So this is available right now. This is part of the Bring Back My Bar that is happening this month in July. This felt like a good fit because Rune's home is like near the coast, and some of the story takes place where they're on the beach, that sort of thing. So this one was the one I was vibing in regards to the story as I was reading it. Plus this is like the ocean at night, and it kind of lends itself to the like love story aspect of the book. So Sea Salt Mist, available for just the month of July, unless you had it to Scentsy Club. Okay, then we have The Fall of the House of Usher. I went with Banana Leaf and Bamboo, current to the catalog. I decided on this one because there's almost like a creepy quality to this. This is a very like green, wild type of scent almost. And it felt to me like something that was growing on the House of Usher, because like I mentioned earlier, the house was kind of described as almost sentient itself, so almost alive type of thing. So I felt this was a good fit for that story. So that is Banana Leaf and Bamboo. There's like a wetness almost to it, like wet green type of scent. If that makes any sense at all, I don't know. To me, it makes sense. Okay, then White Nights. I decided to do Sun Castles. So in regards to the smell, it doesn't necessarily fit when we're talking about northern Russia necessarily, except it's in the summer. But I felt it worked in regards to the like dreamer quality of the story. Sun castles, castles in the sky type of thing. So the narrator, he loved dreaming, he wanted love, all that sort of thing. I felt like Sun Castles would be the perfect option while I was reading that book. Then the last one for Fable, I chose Dark Harbor. This is another Bring Back My Bar, so this is only available this month. So this one is like an aquatic lavender, kaffir lime. What else was in it? There is like a watery note. It's oceany, it's deep, it's got a dark quality to it, slightly on like the masculine side of fragrances, but not cologne to me. It feels like there's like beach grass as well. So it absolutely works perfectly for Fable since they're on the high seas. And I was like, oh yeah, this one I have to mount. Absolutely. So Dark Harbor is my choice for that book. So that's it, you guys. That is everything. That's my book wrap up and the home fragrance that I was using while I was reading those books. So let me know what you've been reading. Have you read any of these books? Yeah, let me know all the things down in the comments. Have you tried any of these scents, especially the Bring Back My Bars? What do you think of them? Yeah, I'd like to talk to you guys. So leave me comments down below. And until next time, I appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day or night, whenever you're watching this. And I will talk to you guys soon. TTFN. Ta-ta for now.